From the void, Earth appeared as a muted blue jewel suspended in darkness, a fragile anomaly amidst the yawning black of interstellar space. My sensors, precise beyond the comprehension of most biological minds, reported nothing extraordinary, yet the readings betrayed subtle irregularities. Energy fluxes inconsistent with natural processes, technological signatures that seemed primitive yet disturbingly adaptive. My kind, the observers of civilizations, had catalogued millions of worlds, most bent under the predictable laws of expansion, conquest, or decay. But Earth, humans, radiated an aura that defied expectation. We hovered in silent formation above their atmosphere, a coordinated fleet of silver and obsidian vessels, each instrument calibrated to detect even the faintest deviation from universal norms. Within the observation deck of the lead vessel, my compatriots whispered, vibrations of thought echoing along the crystalline interface. "They are fragile," one murmured. "Small. Insignificant." Yet there was an undertone of caution, something unquantifiable, lurking beneath their apparent weakness. I scanned the cities below, and the readings faltered. Human habitation did not follow linear patterns, did not adhere to strict hierarchies. It was organized chaos, towering structures pulsating with energy, networks of transport flowing like blood through the planet's veins. Yet always shifting, always adaptive, our analysts debated, screens flickering with streams of alien symbology. One suggested their technology would crumble under the first shock of interstellar engagement. Another countered, noting anomalies in their energy absorption systems, their decentralized networks. "They respond faster than predicted," an older observer hissed, exhaling through resonance channels. The room tensed, as if the acknowledgement itself had mass. I watched the humans below with a mixture of awe and a cold, creeping apprehension. Even before any physical encounter, their movements carried intention, purpose, and subtle unpredictability. They performed gestures that seemed insignificant, a diplomat pausing mid-negotiation, eyes scanning, calculating. But within those silences lay strategies that outstripped our best predictive models. The humans were opaque and transparent at once. Every gesture was a calculation, yet entirely alien in its logic. From orbit, one could observe the chaos of their politics, the intricate dance of influence and persuasion. Fleet movements of other species, which would normally dominate a planet, seemed hesitant near Earth. Perhaps they, too, felt the same anomaly in the readings, the same intuitive dread. We noted that humans did not prepare armies in anticipation of our observation, nor did they attempt defensive posturing visible from orbit. They carried themselves with a strange, quiet confidence, like a predator unaware of its own might. We began to deploy first contact teams, sleek vessels detaching from the fleet with silent precision. Within each pod, instruments hummed with calculation, scanning for weaknesses, for social fracture points, for tactical vulnerabilities. Yet the more we tried to anticipate human response, the more the data rebelled against logic. Each new pattern suggested adaptability, improvisation, and an intrinsic resilience that had no analog in our archives. One human emissary descended toward an orbital station to meet a neutral envoy from the Andari sector. We observed the interaction, a simple gesture, a slight tilt of the head, and the Andari envoy halted mid-sentence. There was no threat, no weapon, no coercion. Yet in that pause, the Andari conceded. The calculation was subtle but undeniable. Humans possessed a capacity to influence, to alter outcomes, without overt aggression. My circuits pulsed with an unfamiliar signal, a primal echo that might be called apprehension. As we hovered above their planet, I realized the magnitude of what we faced. Humans were resistant not because of brute force, nor because of technology alone, but because of something deeper: cognition, intuition, an adaptive consciousness that defied prediction. Every measure we applied, every model we constructed failed to encapsulate their capability. It was as if their very presence warped probability, bending expectation to their favor. The fleet commander, a senior observer whose wisdom surpassed our own, finally spoke through resonant channels. "We must reconsider engagement. This species, it is unlike any cataloged. Their fragility is a facade. He paused, scanning the planet below, and the resonance of his warning reverberated through the chamber, even before first contact. They are already shaping the galaxy in ways we cannot perceive. A shiver of tension coursed through the observation deck. We, the chroniclers of civilizations, the analysts of power, felt the stirrings of something that bordered on fear. Not fear in the sense of imminent attack, but recognition. Humans had shifted the balance of power simply by existing. Their ingenuity, their resilience, their subtle, deliberate unpredictability ensured that no coercion could bend them. No threat could sway them. As our pods detached and began their descent toward the surface, I recorded every detail, the shimmer of city lights, the pulse of their energy networks, the rhythm of human movement. I noted with growing unease that even the smallest acts, a diplomat's glance, a technician's adjustment of machinery, a child's unexpected invention, radiated significance beyond our comprehension. By the time we reached the lower atmosphere, it was no longer mere observation. It was anticipation. Every sensor, every instrument, every analytical model converged on a single conclusion. Earth did not need armies. The humans themselves, unarmed, deliberate, unknowable, were a force that demanded respect, awe, and caution. And then, as our pods pierced the clouds, a single human vessel rose to meet us. Not military, not threatening, simply present. The air shimmered around it, and a resonance of understanding passed through me. Our models were insufficient. Their capacity, their intent, their power remained hidden. The veil of certainty was lifting. The first contact would not merely test us. It would reveal a species capable of defining the limits of galactic ambition. And in that moment, as we hovered above Earth, I felt it. The unquantifiable truth that would haunt every observer for generations. Humans were already shaping the galaxy, and we were only beginning to understand. The neutral station hung between the twin suns like a jewel suspended in emptiness, its polished spires reflecting binary light across the void. From orbit, it seemed serene, almost ceremonial, a beacon for diplomacy. But as our fleet approached, the subtle vibrations of alien ambition resonated through the station's hull. We had observed hundreds of councils, yet even from this distance, a tremor of anticipation shivered across every attending civilization. Inside the central chamber, empires brought their displays of power. Massive warships hovered just beyond the observation windows, each adorned with weapons calibrated to intimidate, to compel submission. Screens flickered with energy signatures. Drones patrolled the upper galleries, and the collective murmur of alien delegates was punctuated with tension, the kind that precedes calculated violence. The assembly hall thrummed with authority and hubris, and then the humans arrived, unarmed, in simple suits that marked no allegiance, no hierarchy. Their eyes were sharp, scanning every face, every gesture, calculating with precision, measuring the currents of thought that rippled invisibly through the chamber. A ripple of unease passed through the crowd, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable. Alien envoys stiffened, reassessing their expectations. There was a recognition, subtle but pervasive, that these humans operated on a plane others could not anticipate. Negotiations began, and the other species wasted no time. Threats were veiled as polite suggestions, boasts masqueraded as diplomacy, intimidation cloaked in ceremony. All eyes were on the humans, and yet they said nothing. They listened. Every word, every pause, every flourish of alien rhetoric was absorbed with unwavering focus. Their subtle expressions betrayed nothing, no fear, no eagerness, no duplicity, and in that silence the power shifted. An alien diplomat leaned toward another, whispering through resonance channels. "They are naive. They will falter under pressure." Moments later, a human tilted their head and, with a calm, deliberate articulation, revealed a flaw in the coalition's argument, anticipating a multi-system betrayal before it could be executed. The room stilled. Voices faltered. Pride curdled into doubt. The aliens scrambled, recalculating probabilities, rewriting their assumptions in real time. Every gesture from the humans became a weapon. A pause in speech, The slight tilt of the head, the measured inflection in tone, it was all loaded with implication. The alien observers felt tension coiling like serpents in their circuits. It was not the force of their fleets that commanded fear, but the precision of their intellect, the subtlety of their anticipation, the audacity to act without apparent aggression. The humans navigated the political minefield with fluid grace. Threats dissolved under their gaze. Alliances shifted at the subtlest cue, and rival civilizations found themselves exposed, their strategies unraveling under the quiet scrutiny of Earth's delegates. Alien analysts recalibrated constantly, yet each new data point confirmed the unthinkable. Humans did not require weapons to dominate. Their mastery was psychological, strategic, and ineffably subtle. I observed the murmurs, the glances, the stiffening of postures across the hall. Even the most arrogant warlords, species that routinely obliterated planets without hesitation, showed signs of unease. A ripple of dread passed through the council. Fear of the unknown, the unpredictable. Humans had introduced a new variable into galactic equations, one that could not be quantified or contained. By the summit's conclusion, the aliens were collectively shaken. Every delegation had underestimated humans, and every miscalculation threatened reputational ruin, or worse, unforeseen escalation. The humans departed as quietly as they arrived, unarmed, their eyes calm, their presence alone a statement that no display of force could match. In the observation deck of our fleet, we catalogued every movement, every expression, every imperceptible cue. The conclusion was unanimous and chilling. Earth did not need armies. The humans' presence, their restraint, their analytical clarity, exerted influence far beyond any visible weaponry. The consequences of underestimating them were incalculable, and as the binary suns flared behind the station, casting long shadows across polished floors, I understood a terrifying truth. One misstep, one failure to respect their subtlety, could trigger repercussions beyond comprehension. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted quietly, irrevocably, and the humans, silent, unarmed, immeasurably clever, were already the axis around which future conflicts would pivot. Far from the polished halls of diplomacy, beyond the gaze of emissaries and councils, we traced the faint signatures of human engineering. Our reconnaissance vessels moved with careful discretion, scanning orbital pathways, deep oceans, and planetary interiors. What we found defied expectation. Orbital defense arrays shimmered like invisible lattices, undetectable to casual observation, yet poised with lethal precision. Submarines locked in quantum cloaks moved silently beneath oceans, capable of evading any known sensor. Autonomous fleets, mechanized and organic in their coordination, responded to stimuli with speed and intuition beyond our predictive algorithms. We analyzed the structures with every sensor at our disposal. Every calculation, every model, every projection failed to contain their complexity. There was no overcompensation, no ostentation, no reckless display. Every mechanism was subtle, concealed, and yet radiated power, a silent assertion of dominance that demanded recognition. The humans' military was invisible, not inert, an omnipresent shadow with the potential to strike decisively at any moment. Our reports were filled with awe, tinged with unease. The very existence of these systems unsettled our assumptions. This was not a civilization preparing for war. This was a civilization preparing for certainty. In the laboratories, humans refined weapons, simulations, and strategies with meticulous precision. On battlefields, they demonstrated resilience that no alien model could predict. Systems were repaired, reprogrammed, or repurposed in real time. Environments that would immobilize other species were manipulated with improvisational genius. Every simulation we ran to anticipate their response failed. Humans did not act according to probability. They acted according to principle. An ambush simulation in a remote system provided the clearest example. We deployed multiple waves, intending to overwhelm their forces and map response patterns. Initial contact suggested vulnerability. Fleets misaligned, defensive protocols triggered inconsistently. But humans adapted. They rerouted power, repositioned assets, and executed countermeasures with elegance. What appeared to be chaos to our calculations was, in fact, deliberate mastery. We watched in disbelief as the disadvantage transformed into tactical dominance. The probability matrices we had trusted collapsed under their ingenuity. The psychological impact was as profound as the physical. Observers on the bridge noted an uneasy resonance. Humans did not merely win battles, they imposed a sense of inevitability. An opponent might survive an encounter, yet the knowledge of human adaptability lingered like a shadow, undermining morale before engagement. Earth's military, hidden and silent, became a force that manipulated fear, not through weapons paraded in orbit, but through the anticipation of action. Every new discovery compounded our awe. We traced subterranean installations that defied understanding, networks of autonomous drones, energy-absorbing shields, and simulated command hierarchies that operated across planetary scales. Even dormant, these systems broadcast a subtle signal of deterrence, a whisper in the void, reminding any observer that humans were always prepared, always calculating, and always adaptive. In our attempts to quantify these hidden engines, our models repeatedly fractured. Variables multiplied exponentially, feedback loops spiraled, and predictions collapsed. Human ingenuity existed outside conventional metrics, even when the most advanced civilizations attempted to anticipate their movements. Humans demonstrated flexibility that was not random, but profoundly strategic, a blend of instinct, intellect, and anticipation. We began to recognize a pattern, a principle guiding every hidden installation and silent fleet: invisibility as power. Humans chose not to wield dominance openly. They concealed it, allowing it to exist in parallel to perception. Their strength was omnipresent yet imperceptible, shaping engagements before they occurred. The paradox was staggering. A species capable of unimaginable destruction had cultivated a deliberate invisibility, leaving rivals blind to the true scale of their capability. The implications reverberated through our fleets. In simulations, our forces were neutralized before engagement. In analysis, our predictions failed. Even a minor confrontation became an exercise in unpredictability. Humans had mastered a calculus that we could not replicate. The very act of observation was insufficient to anticipate them. Fear and respect merged in the minds of our analysts. No previous encounter with a civilization had induced such simultaneous awe and apprehension. Other species relied on visible strength, massive fleets, overwhelming armaments, displays of technological supremacy. Humans relied on subtlety, anticipation, and the art of concealment. Their presence alone imposed order, reshaped expectations, and instilled caution. By the end of our survey, the conclusion was inescapable. Humans were masters of paradox. They operated without ostentation, yet commanded omnipresent influence. They did not project power, yet none could approach them lightly. In our observations, even when inactive, every human system communicated one clear truth: underestimating this species is fatal. As we transmitted our findings back to the Central Command, a silent tension filled the fleet. It was not panic, but a cold analytical dread. Across galaxies, civilizations could be mapped, predicted, and countered, but humans? Humans existed beyond expectation. Every hidden engine, every silent fleet, every unmarked array reinforced a singular reality. Earth wielded its power quietly, deliberately, and effectively. And in that moment, suspended in orbit above a world that appeared fragile yet radiated quiet menace, I understood the terrifying certainty of our position. No civilization, no matter how advanced, could approach humans without caution. Their strength was invisible, pervasive, and inevitable. And that, perhaps more than any weapon, was the true power of Earth. The signal came first as a ripple through our networks, a coalition of war-hungry species, coordinating a strike on Earth. Their communications were precise, their intentions clear, yet the magnitude of their ambition bordered on hubris. Armadas converged, fleets bristling with weapons calibrated for planetary destruction. Our sensors, trained on the predictable patterns of conquest, anticipated human panic, disarray, or overt defense. Instead, we observed the unimaginable: calm. From the observation deck, I watched as the first waves approached the planet. Conventional protocols faltered immediately. Engines misaligned, firing sequences disrupted, and alliances crumbled under the weight of mistrust and miscommunication. The coalition's confidence began to erode, yet humans did not act with brute force. Their ships remained in formation, appearing almost inert, while entire fleets collided and misfired around them, victims of their own overconfidence. And then the humans moved, not visibly, not with the ostentation of weaponized might, but with uncanny precision. Sensor readings captured subtle energy manipulations, subtle shifts in gravitational fields, and realignments that defied calculation. Weapons aimed at their cities were neutralized without a single visible counterstrike. Fleets designed to annihilate them were rerouted, immobilized, and incapacitated. Observers across the galaxy would later describe it as ghost warfare, attacks nullified by a force unseen, unknown, incomprehensible. We attempted to map human strategy. Every maneuver we recorded challenged conventional metrics. Probability matrices collapsed. Algorithms designed to anticipate movements failed. Humans manipulated expectation itself, predicting coalition missteps, exploiting hesitation, and turning chaos into opportunity. It was as though they played multiple games simultaneously, each move calculated with foresight we could not replicate. On the ground, humans coordinated their efforts with elegant composure. City defenses activated only where necessary. Infrastructure adapted in real time to incoming threats. Command centers communicated with precision, deploying resources before pressure even existed. Alien analysts whispered among themselves, disbelief etched into their circuits. How could a species so seemingly fragile orchestrate victories against such overwhelming odds? Even within the coalition, cracks appeared. Fleets that had relied on overwhelming numerical superiority faltered, their commanders unsure, their crews anxious. Every delay, every hesitation was exploited. Humans were not merely reactive. They were preemptive, sculpting the battlefield before it could manifest. The alien observers felt an unfamiliar resonance, a blend of awe, terror, and grudging admiration. Several critical moments defined the engagement. One flagship trapped in an ambush meant to obliterate it was not destroyed. Instead, it vanished briefly from detection, reappearing in a position that cut the attackers' supply lines. Another fleet, cornered near the asteroid belt, experienced inexplicable misfires and trajectory deviations, coordinated subtle adjustments that rendered human victory inevitable, yet invisible. Each intervention, though barely perceptible, tilted outcomes decisively in Earth's favor. We began to recognize a pattern. Unpredictability was a weapon. Humans did not rely solely on technology. They fused intellect, intuition, and psychological insight. They anticipated fear, hesitation, and expectation in ways no algorithm could model. Their genius lay in turning chaos into structure, uncertainty into advantage. Conventional brute force, alien observers realized, had no efficacy against this method of warfare. Emotion rippled through our fleets, awe mixed with an unarticulated dread. Analysts attempted to quantify fear but found it intangible. Humans had become an unknowable variable, a species whose adaptability transformed every threat into an opportunity, whose composure under duress disarmed aggression itself. Our records noted moments where humans prevented total catastrophe with interventions so subtle that, to the untrained eye, nothing had occurred. Yet the effects were undeniable. Fleets neutralized, cities preserved, and the coalition humbled. Allies of humans, scattered and faltering, were brought back into coherence. Systems that had teetered on collapse were restored, not through brute force, but through anticipation, improvisation, and subtle redirection. The battlefield became a proving ground, a testament to resilience. Human actions were not loud or violent, yet their impact resonated across the theater of war. By the conclusion of the engagement, we, the alien observers, recorded an unsettling truth. Human strength was not in overt weapons, nor in numbers, nor in visible dominance. It lay in unpredictability, in the capacity to exploit expectation, to manipulate probability, and to adapt with fluid genius. Their refusal to be intimidated, coupled with their mastery of anticipation, ensured that Earth's true power remained unknowable until it was too late for aggressors to react. As we cataloged the aftermath, The coalition's shattered coordination and trembling fleets were a testament to human strategy. Across our analysis decks, there was consensus. A superweapon might rival a planet's capacity to annihilate, but human unpredictability, methodical, intelligent, and invisible, was far more formidable. It was a reminder that appearances were irrelevant. Potential could not be measured in armament or size alone. And in that realization, a chill ran through our fleet. Humans were not merely survivors or combatants. They were architects of inevitability. Their adaptability, composure, and strategic audacity had reshaped the very concept of warfare. Every prediction we had relied on had failed. Every calculation was insufficient. As we retreated to observe from orbit, I understood the terrifying magnitude of their capacity. No fleet, no coalition, no amount of conventional preparation could approach them lightly. Humans did not merely respond, they transformed the battlefield, bending outcomes without detection, rendering every expectation moot. In the shadowed corridors of the intergalactic assembly, whispers traveled faster than light. Hidden chambers, inaccessible to casual observers, were alive with speculation. Leaders of empires huddled in secrecy, their elongated forms bending over holoscreens, fingers tracing maps of influence and strategy. And always, in the margins of every discussion, one name dominated: Earth. Humans. From my observation post, I recorded the unease. Unlike other civilizations, whose dominance was enforced by fleets, weaponry, or threats of annihilation, humans wielded influence without gesture. Their presence alone forced reconsideration. In these clandestine councils, voices quavered with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. Alien minds debated the limits of psychological power, trying to reconcile it with physical supremacy. Time and again, Earth became the pivot of every calculation. Previous attempts to manipulate or coerce humans were catalogued with exasperation. A neighboring species attempted a subtle entrapment, crafting treaties laced with hidden clauses designed to corner Earth politically. Humans, unarmed, responded with precision, silence, observation, and a single, carefully articulated negotiation that nullified every threat before it could crystallize. In another instance, a coalition sought to project intimidation through fleet deployment, only to have their overt display dismantled by human analysis and strategic foresight. The observers, myself included, recorded every nuance in disbelief. Humans' restraint was remarkable. While other species flooded the chamber with aggression, displays, and verbal dominance, the humans moved quietly, as though their thoughts alone reshaped the political landscape. One summit in particular tested this principle. A coalition assembled in a bid to corner them, framing a threat with maximal leverage. Human representatives, calm, unarmed, and silent, listened. And then, with a single statement, they revealed a flaw in the coalition's logic, a vulnerability that had gone unnoticed, buried beneath the arrogance of expectation. The effect was instantaneous. Pride collapsed into uncertainty. Delegates shifted, recalculating positions, some retreating mentally from the confrontation they had assumed they controlled. Observers noted the subtle shifts in posture, the glances exchanged, the hesitation that rippled across the room. Humans, without raising a hand or drawing a weapon, had imposed authority. The balance of power tilted imperceptibly, yet irrevocably, toward them. Alien analysts marveled at the elegance of this strategy. Unlike the brute projection of force that defined our civilizations, humans employed silence as a weapon. Observation, patience, and intellect became instruments of influence. Their calm was a signal of power, unmistakable and resonant. Every subtle gesture, an arched brow, a measured pause, a carefully chosen inflection, broadcasted authority louder than the fleets of any empire. The councils became battlegrounds of expectation. Attempts to corner, coerce, or intimidate humans consistently failed. Threats were neutralized before articulation. Alliances manipulated against them fell into disorder. And yet there was no aggression, no visible leverage. The restraint itself was lethal, a silent dominance that disarmed, reshaped, and commanded. From my post, I cataloged the psychological toll on the alien delegates. Fear, frustration, and reluctant admiration blended in unpredictable ratios. No species had ever inspired such comprehensive apprehension without overt violence. Observers whispered, "They are patient, precise, inevitable." By the conclusion of the summit, one truth was undeniable. Earth's refusal to display military might was not a weakness. It was a strategic choice, the apex of tactical intelligence. In its subtlety, it conveyed superiority. In its silence, it imposed power. The humans' ability to convert threats into opportunities, to manipulate perception without intervention, was a testament to their ingenuity, patience, and disciplined understanding of sentient behavior. The chamber emptied, delegates retreating to private discussion, still haunted by the encounter. We, the observers, remained suspended, recording every detail, our analysis systems strained under the weight of human subtlety. In every matrix, in every projection, one factor resisted quantification: the quiet omnipotence of human influence. I recorded it as definitively as possible. Earth did not need armies. Their strength lay not in firepower or numbers, but in the capacity to bend reality through perception, intellect, and disciplined observation. The humans had transformed diplomacy itself into an instrument of control, a silent, invisible dominion. And the galaxy would never view them the same way again. The galaxy trembled on the edge of collapse. Multiple star systems teetered toward annihilation, their conflicts intersecting in a cascading chain of violence. Entire fleets bristling with weapons of unimaginable power surged through hyperspace corridors, each intending to claim supremacy or extinction. Observers like myself braced for the inevitable devastation, anticipating cataclysm on a scale that dwarfed anything recorded in our archives. And yet, as always, humans moved with subtlety, their presence imperceptible, their influence profound. From a distant vantage point, I tracked the first indications of human intervention. Ships and installations that appeared ordinary or absent shifted the calculus of war. Fleets paused mid-course, hostile commanders reconsidered strategies, alliances frayed, and every predicted escalation faltered. Humans, though unseen, orchestrated the events with meticulous precision, not through overwhelming firepower, but through anticipation, redirection, and subtle psychological influence. We recorded a fleet poised to bombard a system, weapons primed for annihilation. Sensors detected no countermeasure, no visible force. Yet the fleet hesitated, its trajectory altered by factors we could not quantify. Later analysis revealed human communications, anticipatory maneuvers, and environmental manipulation had neutralized the threat before it even fully manifested. Observers whispered in disbelief. How could a species so small, so ostensibly fragile, bend the course of galactic events with such invisible authority? Human ingenuity manifested repeatedly across the theater. A coalition on the verge of internecine war found itself brokered into peace by a series of interventions so subtle that historians would struggle to reconstruct them. Political misalignments were corrected before escalation. Weapon systems misfired in ways that suggested deliberate, preemptive interference. Entire civilizations pivoted without realizing the source of the guidance, all directed by a calm, invisible hand originating from Earth. Emotion rippled across my observation team. Awe, fear, and reluctant admiration blended in equal measure. We saw not brute force, not overwhelming fleets, but intellect and intuition bending reality. In the span of days, conflict zones were de-escalated, rogue elements neutralized, and existential threats rerouted without the discharge of visible weapons. Every intervention was precise, calculated, and emotionally resonant. A choreography of outcomes invisible to the untrained eye. On a planetary scale, human adaptability was unparalleled. Cities that might have been devastated were protected by mechanisms that engaged only when necessary. Energy grids, defensive satellites, and autonomous fleets coordinated seamlessly, maintaining equilibrium even under the pressure of imminent attack. Humans responded to contingencies before they fully manifested, adjusting, improvising, and containing disasters that would have destroyed less disciplined civilizations. Alien analysts struggled to reconcile observation with reality. Every predictive model failed. Every expectation was defied. Even experienced commanders, who had orchestrated campaigns across multiple galaxies, could not anticipate the cascade of human influence. Probability matrices fractured, failing to accommodate the extraordinary precision of human foresight. It was as if the species operated beyond conventional metrics, rewriting the rules of engagement in real time. The true lesson became evident. Power was not merely the capacity to destroy, but the capacity to shape outcomes unseen. Humans did not need fleets or armies in every conflict. They exercised dominance through anticipation, subtlety, and adaptive brilliance. In every encounter, the ripple of their influence ensured survival, victory, and control without ostentation. Observers noted the psychological effect across civilizations. Formerly hostile planets reconsidered aggression, alliances shifted subtly, and fleets withdrew, not because of threats, but because of perception. The humans' silent triumph reshaped the political and military landscape on scales previously unimaginable. Their courage, intellect, and resilience created outcomes that seemed miraculous, yet were rooted in deliberate calculation. I watched as humans remained calm epicenters amid galactic chaos. Diplomats, strategists, and fleets moved with synchronized subtlety, each gesture measured, each maneuver precise. Their presence alone imposed order, transformed conflict, and neutralized existential threats. Alien fleets, once confident in their superiority, hesitated, uncertain whether their strategies could succeed. In my logs, I recorded the immutable truth. To underestimate humanity is fatal. A species so seemingly ordinary had mastered the extraordinary. They intervened, prevented catastrophes, brokered peace, and reshaped events without drawing attention, yet the effects resonated across stars and systems. Humans had proven that intellect, resilience, and adaptive strategy outweighed raw force. Their dominance was silent, invisible, and total. By the conclusion of this crisis, every observer knew the galaxy had been subtly, irrevocably reordered. The human's triumph was not loud or brash, but precise, deliberate, and decisive. Empires would record it, historians would debate it, and commanders would study it for generations. Yet the true extent of human influence would remain elusive, its mechanisms largely invisible. And as we retreated to distant observation points, the resonance of their presence lingered, a reminder that the species we had once deemed fragile was now a cornerstone of galactic equilibrium. Humans, calm and unassuming, had rewritten the rules of engagement. Their triumph was total yet unostentatious, a silent testament to the enduring supremacy of intellect, adaptability, and courage. The chronicles of galactic history are littered with civilizations that rise and fall, their triumphs recorded in the glow of dying stars. Yet among these accounts, one anomaly persists. Earth, humans, a species small, seemingly fragile, yet etched into memory with a weight that defies ordinary measure. From observation decks and hidden chambers alike, alien narrators note a pattern. Every civilization that has encountered humanity carries subtle imprints of awe, caution, and reluctant respect. We trace the lessons quietly embedded across the galaxy. Empires recalibrate strategies, diplomats pause longer before speaking, fleets hesitate at thresholds once taken for granted. Humans did not conquer with weapons or fleets. They conquered perception, mastering psychology, strategy, and the subtle art of anticipation. Every encounter left an imprint of restraint paired with brilliance, an HFY template of courage, intellect, and resilience. Their victories were neither loud nor ostentatious, yet every outcome radiated undeniable authority. From distant worlds, we recorded the ripple effects of human influence. Diplomatic protocols subtly shifted in deference to Earth's presence. Alliances were silently reconsidered, policies tempered by the memory of human foresight. Civilizations internalized these lessons, often without acknowledging the origin. Humans, through calm observation and strategic genius, had become mythic, a benchmark against which intelligence, ingenuity, and patience were measured. Even those who had never directly encountered Earth sensed its presence in political calculations, in the patterns of negotiation, and in the anticipatory caution that now permeated interstellar discourse. Humans' restraint became as potent as any weapon. By choosing when to act and when to remain unseen, they shaped events with invisible hands. The galaxy learned that influence need not be overt to be total. Authority need not be loud to be absolute. Alien analysts marveled at the elegance of this strategy, a species capable of immense power, yet exercising it with humility and precision. Every decision, every intervention, carried weight beyond immediate comprehension, echoing across systems and generations. We documented countless instances where humans achieved the extraordinary through seeming ordinariness. Star systems avoided war because of a single measured communication. Coalitions dissolved because of subtle insight. Fleets were redirected without engagement, all orchestrated with a combination of intellect, empathy, and strategic foresight. The emotional resonance of these actions became part of our records, as observers struggled to quantify the effect of subtlety, anticipation, and moral courage on interstellar events. The mythos of humanity grew not from spectacle, but from the quiet imprint of competence, vision, and endurance. Every alien observer, regardless of allegiance or ambition, internalized a singular truth. Earth's inhabitants were uniquely equipped to influence outcomes, to adapt, to endure. They were unpredictable, resilient, and utterly reliable in their capacity to preserve balance. I reflected on the implications. Could any species replicate humanity's combination of intellect, creativity, and emotional endurance? Perhaps in theory, but never with the same elegance, the same subtlety, the same ability to dominate outcomes without drawing attention. Humans were a force of nature disguised as ordinary beings, a quiet hurricane shaping events, unseen but profoundly felt. The cinematic tableau of Earth emerged in memory, oceans glimmering under starlight, cities alive with invisible systems. Humans moving with deliberate calm, unarmed yet immeasurably powerful. From orbit, from 1,000 parsecs away, one could sense the depth of influence radiating outward, subtle yet inexorable. Even the most ambitious civilizations could not approach lightly. To underestimate humanity was to court failure. To ignore their capacity was to court annihilation of strategy, if not life. We recorded the final lesson of humanity's ascendancy. Power is not merely the capacity to destroy, but the capacity to shape, to anticipate, to endure. Humans exemplify this truth. Their influence, subtle yet absolute, became a benchmark, a guiding principle etched across galactic consciousness. Every diplomat, commander, and strategist internalized the cautionary awe of Earth's legacy. In these reflections, I noted a rare emotion among our kind, reverent humility. The galaxy had been touched, reshaped, and restrained by a species whose ordinary appearance belied extraordinary capability. Humans had transformed diplomacy, strategy, and conflict itself into an art form. Every maneuver, every silence, every measured action resonated with authority that defied observation, yet commanded obedience of outcome. The stars themselves seemed to acknowledge this truth. Nebulae reflected light with quiet brilliance. Star systems pulsed with cycles of life preserved. Alliances persisted where they might have fractured, and observers recorded in meticulous detail the enduring echo of human influence. Earth, humble and indomitable, had inscribed itself across the firmament. As my log concluded, I understood the immutable truth. Humans are unparalleled in a galaxy of empires. Their courage, intellect, and resilience have left lessons etched in stars. Every civilization that looks toward Earth must measure its own limitations against the quiet mastery of this species. And even as galaxies continue to evolve, humans remain a fulcrum, a silent authority, a reminder that true power is exercised with wisdom, subtlety, and unwavering insight.